We're on TV. We're on TV, Rocco. He's excited. Happy Monday, July 22nd, 2024. 5 days since our last video. I feel like I was just saying confession, like blessing Father for I've seen this been 3 days since last, whatever. Anyways, so a couple of interesting stuff obviously happened over the news in the past week. I think people said it's been a decade and a week basically, but let's see what's going on with markets. An interesting day today. Volatility dropped. I know a lot of people were looking at markets and seeing how things were going to trade after the Biden dropout news. Bitcoin, if you looked at it, it was the closest thing in real-time markets, and it happened yesterday afternoon when futures were closed. And basically markets went up, very small. Bitcoin actually dropped initially on the announcement, and then it went basically right back up to even 66-ish K. And now we had a little bit of an increase. The market stayed really gobbled it up essentially. And volatility really dropped over the certainty now that at least he is not going to be the candidate. So it wasn't an increase in uncertainty. The market has now not assumed, but understands now that there's more certainty that Kamala Harris will be the nomination, and then we'll go on from there. But let's do some screen share here. What really drove the market today? It was kind of an interesting day, low volume, as you might expect. I mean, maybe you wouldn't expect. But let's see what happened here as I share my screen and what really happened, and a little update on what has happened in the past week. Where do you want to be in terms of the areas, right? So we'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little bit better, a little bit more better. All right, so energy infrastructure of 1%. I'm not going to really get into that about, assuming that it's going to be a Trump victory or it's going to be whatever. But energy infrastructure was up today. It's actually the only real area that went to a 52-week high. So more investment. There really is a broadening happening here. And we were talking about energy infrastructure. These are companies like ONEOK, Kinder Morgan, and things like that, Williams companies, and so on. They had a nice move today. Nothing major, but it was a multiple sigma move for them. And and volatility, my voice is gone. I went to Blink-182 last night and Foo Fighters on Friday, and that's why I have no voice left, and my neck, I can't headbang anymore. I am too old, but very alive. What's my age again? Volatility collapsed today, honestly, down 5.5% over that, the certainty that Biden will not be in anymore. So 5.5% move in the vol is not, that's not small, that's a pretty big move. I think it was 2 sigmas. And we'll look at the chart on what we were saying in terms of volatility. And then the best gainers of the week, the past week, and the best, the worst losers, essentially. The best 3 absolute trades of the past 5 days, pretty interesting. So including today's session and the past 4 previous, is short copper miners, short uranium, and long home construction. Home construction will not stop. It's up 7% in the past week. So let's take a look at things. Excuse me, as I burp on air. So let's take a look at the SPY chart today, and then we'll go from there. That's my mug. That's my tired and late nights. Okay. So here's the dashboard. This is the intraday. Here was us at the open, pretty calm. A little bit of a sell-off here at the European close, and then a surge to new highs at 2:30. And you can't really see here, but actually a good-sized bar of buying at 3:30 p.m. Usually tells me that the institutions aren't done buying yet. As we zoom out here, as I said before, I do a lot of work with 15 to 18-day cycles. There's a lot of power for that to me in my trading system. Full disclosure, I did buy put spreads on the IWM on Friday. I'm no longer in the ARC-G just due to that massive broadening that's happening. Even though, obviously, yes, some will catch the small caps, I'd still rather be having a short on the index level versus an ARC-G, especially during earnings seasons where biotech, which is what ARC-G is consisted of, can really run, 20, 30% in terms of the individual name. So I'm better off with the IWM. You see SPY hit the all-time highs here on July 16th, just due to the course of how I do my studies and such. Basically, seeing a bit of I don't even want to say the words bearish regime anymore, but just basically basing. Days like today are kind of emblematic to me, are pretty important that we didn't have massive sell-offs. You see when the semis were down 5-6% or something like that, there's a line of buyers and they buy them right back up. So we're not really selling off, and that's what I was saying before. So around August 2nd or so, I don't really see us getting much lower than around 550. Okay, so that's basically right around here, maybe another percent lower, get back from what we have today. before we go towards new highs. If you get really kind of an ugly sell-off, you get to this lower band, that 540, which is basically levels that we just started to reach in mid-June, June 12th to be exact. So get along this market. I don't think you're getting a crash of sorts. If you get a really ugly sell-off that will actually even shake the algos and such, you have to go under 494. And that would be quite a move of $60 or like 12% more than a garden variety, much more than a garden variety sell-off that we've seen in quite a long time. You'd have to get back to the scary moments of last October. All right, so that's SPY. Let us get to stuff that happened today and what we think about it. If there's a setup, if there's more to it, there's no more to it, so on, so forth, and what have you. I used to have a crazy teacher in college. She was pretty annoying. She actually looked a little bit like Kamala Harris, and she always just say, and what have you. She, I don't think, liked me. Okay, so MLPX. Remind me of Blink again. I saw it. What's that punk rock band? MLPX? Ironically. Anyways, so nice little search here. Nice little slope. Like the rise 200-day moving average. This thing's been overbought for about 5 days here. Superstar performance. Also had periods of overbought in March. Never oversold. A nice one here. Again, the main constituents of this is about, I believe, a quarter of this fund is Williams Company, One Oak, and I believe Kinder Morgan. It might be Peabody. So not super diversified, or I don't want to say like equal weighted or anything like that. It's pretty top heavy. All that being said, a very nice looking candle here. It's a little bit overdone, though, just given what it's done from the overbought period as well. I see it's getting a little bit tired around just for a mover like this. And the breakout essentially was here. Yeah, I think this comes down a little bit. It might have another day or two to go, but this looks a little heavy right around, to be honest, $53. So nice search day. I'm assuming some give back. That's over the next 2 weeks or so. For right now, blue skies ahead and no resistance right now, but a little stretched. And just to get in the weeds with an 80 RSI, this is essentially where the IWM got tired last week. This is pretty much where this thing has topped out, around an 80 RSI. So I don't think it has too much to go. And that was the only major surger today, more than one standard deviation. Pretty remarkable. Excuse me. And if you're looking, this is what's amazing about trading markets. You got the headline yesterday, Biden drops out of race. Oh my, who's the candidate? Obviously, because he just turned 82 overnight, right? Shocking. Any hooser. But that's the amazing thing about the market. Oh, the market's going to be down. They're going to be up, et cetera, et cetera. Vol is literally in by 6%, and you have stuff like this surging and nothing else. So let me take a look at the VXX chart, as I always do. It's pretty interesting. Looks like they're going to have to reverse split this thing soon. Let me zoom on a 6-month chart because it's such a piece of crapola. It's funny. I just saw an S here. Are they going to split it? I think this is an error from something else. But any hooser, saying that a lot now. All right, so VXX, I said this was going to get tired around the 11.5 level. Ironically, we got to 1167 on Friday, and quite a give back today, as I said, almost about a 5 1/3% or so, down to 1090. The 21 exponential moving average for this is 1077, so just a touch below where we are now. This could have another surge or so, but I do think you're going to start to see this lower in the, not right now. I still think this chops along right around here. I think it wants to get to that 11 handle again, potentially, before when I said the bearishness ends around August 2nd or so. I think you're going to really start to see this go south towards 990. The 52-week low on this is 999. And it was struck out on July 12th. I am seeing this break, I believe, mid-August. I think we're going to break through that. Okay, top 5 gainers of the past 5 days. No repeats from other charts. The best long in the market. It's actually a tie. For the past 5 days, it is a two-way tie between Hope Construction and Bitcoin. Pretty different volatilities, different, obviously, investment theses. But let's take a look. They're both up 7% in the past 5 days. ITB can't stop. Look at this, a beautiful touch of the 200-day moving average, strong like rock. If you just said, you know what, this thing's held from these ugly days of October, and this thing really has held the 200-day moving average since Halloween. And right here has got a nice slope to it. But now what? So this is overdone. I mean, we've been saying it for a little while. I think this should rest around 110. So this is like $6 overdone. I think you're going to start to see a little bit of give back. I'm not going to time it, but I do think it's in the next 2 weeks or so. And I think you see a push down towards initially, obviously 110. And then I think it wants to base around 107. So around here. So great gains if you caught it. It was kind of, I don't want to say a giveaway. I didn't participate. So it's not always that simple, but this is a very strong line. I don't even know if you're going to get this again with it going to 99. If you do, you snatch it up. Next one, as I said, is IBIT, although all the Bitcoin ETFs are going to be pretty similar in terms of returns, up 7% in the past 5 days, up 1.5% here. A couple of reasons. I know Ethereum, there's different, parts of the complex that are getting ETF approval, so on and so forth. And obviously, the Bitcoin conference, I believe, is this week in Nashville, and I believe Trump is speaking on it. And you've just had more bullish things out of BlackRock and other major institutional firms, Jamie Dimon, I believe, and others being bullish Bitcoin. So let's see what this means. I have a buy order in, but not up here. I'm probably around closer to like 61,000 Bitcoin equivalent for a buy order. It's trading 67 today. So hoping for about a 10% correction or so. Maybe, buy the rumor, sell the news on the day of the conference. Who knows? But all that being said, I don't want to buy here. Any way you look at it, it's kind of at the top band, right around 38.5. Even if you get a vol expansion, it doesn't really get much stretch past 39. I'm not buying it here. This looks like I'm not sure when it wants to do it, but this is probably the specific ETF wants to go towards 35.5 to 36, like pretty soon. That's going to be 10%, hence the origin of my order. In full disclosure, I did buy more mega cap stocks on Friday. My baby, the XLJ, bought more on Friday. I was happy it got filled, and voila, up 1% today on that. So stay along the market. If you think you're bright and you're getting in 4% T-bills or 4% money market, the market's going to do maybe like 40% this year. So, align yourself properly. The regional banks is the third best performer. This thing is continuing to churn along. This is up 6 1/3% over the past week, up at 1.5% today. I'm seeing, when you look at the 52-week highs, it's not the JP Morgans any right now, or Netflix or Honeywell. I don't know why I said Honeywell. I don't think they're doing superb, but I'm seeing a lot of regional banks, small ones, international banks. I'm seeing strength in the banking system. Mid cap financials, I believe my buddy JC Perret said hit new all-time highs potentially today, or maybe it was Friday. So there's strength in different parts of the market cap. So KRE, where are we here? This thing's way overstretched. I mean, this isn't like a semiconductor. They're not, in bed with NVIDIA. So I expect this not to have this kind of a lift, but the fundamentals and everything has been getting, positive sentiment and increases, if you will, in the market. All that being said, this shouldn't really be trading above 53.5. It's quite rich here, even with the expansion. So I see a little bit of a come down in this. Congrats if you were in it. But yeah, this looks a little bit stretched, and it's overbought for the first time since December, where it was putting on those 52-week highs here, and you have your support down to 200-day, about $48. But yeah, not going to chase. Interestingly enough, when we're talking about the longs here, home construction, Bitcoin, regional banks, looks like good, broadening and diversification. The fourth biggest gainer is volatility. Even with today's give back, I'm not going to pull up the chart because we had it. This was due to the scariness, if you will, or whatever, last week. And one of the days, semiconductors was down 7%, which pushed volatility up a bit due to the weighting in the indices to all those high tech flyers. All that being said, though, volatility up about 6% in the past week, pretty impressive. And then the last gainer. Talk about a broadening. Nat gas, for goodness sakes. Nat gas is the fifth best gainer in the past week. I know it's a short time frame, but it is up 3.5% in the past week, and that's good for the fifth best asset. So it was home construction, Bitcoin, regional banks, volatility, and nat gas. Okay, we only report stuff that matters. So nat gas, what happens now? This looks like it can go a little bit more. It had a very nice day today, up 5%, but it was oversold, like literally oversold, with a 17 RSI, for goodness sakes, going back to Wednesday. So you had a nice pop here when it had a 52-week low from 1360. I'm rounding all the way to 15. So pretty impressive rally. Now what? I think it wants to get towards 16. I think it's got a little bit left to go. You got a nice candle here today. I think it wants to get a little bit more, and then I would have to say I would like to sell it. What would be awesome, textbook, I would love it if it got to the 200-day 1970, that I would short the crap out of it all the way down here, just utilizing different like put ladders and such, down to about 14 handle. This looks just heavy. I would love if it got up here. That would be an easy signal to short, but markets usually don't give you that. All right, biggest losers of the week, and this is actually the best trade in the entire market over the past 5 days. Short copper miners. Who'd have thunk it? That is the best trade, down 9% over the past week, or an average of almost 2% a day. Today gave back about 1%. Now what? It's funny, my data provider gave me a mixed signal. I got an oversold buy here because it closed below this band here. I think it's essentially at 3-month lows. Not wonderful in terms of the momentum. And also had a little bit of a fundamental shift. I'm not going to get into exactly what, but it looks like something changed here with copper miners. Obviously, the commodities complex is going to be in focus as I go into the next name as well, which is uranium. But now what? I think this actually has put in a low right around 43.30. Today, obviously, got a little bit stretched. I do think this 42 handle holds. You have a rising 200-day, where that's your ultimate support at 40 even. So you could have a little bit more downside, but this doesn't seem like a horrendous nibble. I think this wants to get back to 46, and that would be a nice mover of almost 10%. Well, 43 to 46, like 7% mover. So there's a lot of convergence here that would be, I think, meaningful. And this has had, it usually doesn't go straight down. So from this to trade from 48, okay, on July 5th, all the way to 42, a reduction of 6 points in 2 weeks or so, it's kind of aggressive. So I don't disagree with the data provider saying it's an oversold buy. Next, uranium. So just real fast, we're talking about the rotation, as it were, right? So they're rotating in the MLPX, the energy infrastructure. They're getting out of volatility as it is. Home construction is continuing to rise, but it looks like it's going to come down a little. In my opinion, just being overdone. Bitcoin, I'm thinking you could have a catalyst due to the news, the conference, and such. But then that can get back. Regional banks a little stretched. That's going to come down. Volatility, don't worry about for right now. Nat gas has a little bit to go, so there's a rotation in effect. Let's look at uranium. Uranium, a superstar, in my opinion. I mean, I know it topped back basically Memorial Day week. The 200-day, is it starting to go lower? It's still rising, but very slow. This is like some of the slowest momentum it's had in quite a while. What do you do with it here? It looks a little range bound. It looks a little stuck between, it's a good range for it, between 28 and 32. It looks like that's basically where it's essentially been, minus some outlier prints going back to March. What do you do here? I think it might go a little bit lower. Again, the momentum in this is to the negative side. It's down almost 8% in the past 5 days. I think this wants to go maybe towards 28 even. So right around here where my cursor is, this line. So, kind of having a weird tug of war with the 200-day, straddling it, as it were, which it has done since about mid-June. So you're looking at 5 weeks here and kind of, no man's territory, holding it. But really the past 3 days getting, a little bit concerning for uranium. But it has proved to be a winner. Many different effects. There's a correlation with AI usage and obviously energy consumption. And there's also geopolitical stuff with like Iran having the enrichment, so on and so forth. So a little bit of sell-off. This still looks weak. I'm not going to reverse that momentum here. I think this wants to go towards 28, spend a little time there before trying to ascend towards 30, but that's weeks away, I think. All right, next, SMH, the third biggest loser in the market. Crazy. Whenever this is on sale, you buy it. I don't know what else to tell you. Just buy it. It's NVIDIA. It's all that. NVIDIA itself is kind of being stuck to 120, although it had a nice pop today. But there's other stuff, obviously. Broadcom, Micron, Taiwan Semi. And we'll look at Taiwan in a second, actually. But here is the semiconductors. It looks a little weak. It did top on the 11th at 283. We had said that was way rich. Now what? This looks like people aren't going to flock into it just yet. I mean, today had a nice 4% day, but I still think it looks a little bit heavy and wants to go towards potentially 250, to be honest. I actually have another chart. It says it wants to go towards 246. And that would be $11. So basically a give back of today. I thought it was more right-sized in terms of valuation on Friday. Today looks a little bit, I don't want to say frothy, but the momentum, I believe, is a little bit low. I think you get a little bit of vol expansion. You can see a little bit of an expansion of this blue area here, and I think it gets stretched a little bit to there as folks rotate into these other assets like home construction, Bitcoin, regional banks. It's still there, right? So that's semiconductors, but when it does bottom in about a week, maybe two, around 246, somewhere around there, you're going to want to buy that because the next target is going to be towards like 285, which is new all-time highs. So don't fall asleep on that. EWT, obviously very correlated with Taiwan Semiconductor, which is correlated with tech and AI and NVIDIA, so on. So let me look at Taiwan. Taiwan, we're talking about here because it's down 5.5% in the past week, or almost 1% a day. Today it's down 1/3%, and is the fourth biggest loser in the market. So it's copper miners, uranium, semis, in Taiwan. All that being said, this looks like it's going to rest right around here. I like what happened. This actually was you could have easily called, I think we were actually saying that the market topped, I said around the 16, 17, so a little bit different on here. This is obviously just Taiwan, not the S&P. It topped there at 58, overbought, okay? And then it went all the way from 58 to 53, a nice 10% reduction or so, obviously high to low or peak to trough, and it's getting to the other lower band. Now what do? It might have another day or two to flush around with this 52 handle, but then I think you're going to start to see it move towards 55, and that would be your entry. I believe Taiwan Semiconductor is a major, obviously, constituent of this ETF. And lastly, only other asset after that, so copper miners, uranium, semiconductors, Taiwan, worst performance, and the least of those, or fifth in that, is silver, down 5%. So not as bad as Taiwan and those other assets I named, but got hit pretty hard, or an average of 1% per day over the past week. Today, down 0.5%. Let's see what the setup is. If anything, this looks like it has a little bit of downward momentum towards 25.80. I think this wants to go a little bit lower, basically towards here. Makes a lot of sense. Maybe shake some weak hands and go to levels not reached, first reached since in April, rather. So we'll see. This topped May 20th. I think negative energy with this one. I think this goes towards 25.80 before trying to get a bounce towards 28. Okay, and the best absolute trades of the past 5 days, as I said, short copper miners, short uranium, long home construction. We will be back with another video on Wednesday. Bye-bye, and rock on.